Hi there, this is Christopher Panaretos, author of the Languages book series on Amazon. And in this video, I'm going to be showing how to translate another sentence from English into Icelandic. And for this example, I'm going to be using the sentence, she will give him the car. Okay, so step one is going to be translating the English scene into its components. So this particular sentence is a ditransitive scene, and that is because we have a subject, we have a verb, we have an indirect object here, and we have a direct object. So in English we have subject, verb, indirect object, and direct object. And we can fill these in here. Verb is will give him, and then we have the car. Okay, so a good place to start for the translation is using the same scene type. So ditransitive scene and Icelandic. And we don't offhand know yet if the component order is the same in Icelandic. Maybe the verb comes first or something like that. So I'm going to look in my book, Learn Icelandic, and I'm going to look at the section on word order right here. And there's a section on the ditransitive scene. So here's the Icelandic ditransitive scene. The four components are listed in the order of subject first, then verb, then indirect object, then direct object. So it happens to be the same as English. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy the same component order. And so this is going to be our working translation for Icelandic. Of course, we haven't translated any of the words yet, so I don't know the Icelandic words. So I'm just going to fill these in with the English words for now. And then as we do the translation of each word into Icelandic, we'll fill them in component by component. So let's take our working translation, put it down on the next page, and let's start translating. We'll start with the first component here, which is the subject. So we've got English, she, and we're going to translate that into some word in Icelandic. She is a personal pronoun, and we are interested in how Icelandic does the personal pronoun. So let's investigate the Icelandic personal pronoun a little bit. I'm going to go to the summary section on Icelandic personal pronouns. So Icelandic personal pronouns have four characteristics. They've got perspective, gender, count, and case. I want to write those here. We've got gender, we've got count, we've got case. And our job here right now is to figure out what these features are. So we can learn a lot from the English, version. So perspective, she is third person. Gender is most likely feminine. Let's see here. The count, she is going to be singular, right? And then case, because she is being used as the subject of the scene, that's probably going to be the nominative case. So we have our four features of the Icelandic personal pronoun. We've got all four features figured out. So how to find the proper spelling of she in Icelandic? Well, we need the spelling table for the personal pronoun in Icelandic. So I'm going to go to the personal pronoun section, and here is the spelling table of the personal pronoun in Icelandic. So let's look at our features. We've got third person, feminine singular, and nominative. So we've got third person, we've got feminine, we've got singular, and then nominative is this first column here. So our spelling, our translation of she into Icelandic should be hun. So I'm going to copy our working translation here, and I'm going to replace she, the English word she, with hun. Okay. So moving down, let's go to the next component, which is the verb. So we've got English, we've got will give, which is a version of the infinitive form to give. And we need to translate will give into Icelandic. And we don't yet know the infinitive form of this Icelandic verb. So let's investigate the Icelandic verb. It's going to have some features. So what are those features? Well, Icelandic has four features, four characteristics for its verbs. It's got mood, tense, aspect, and subject agreement. So I'm going to write those down here. Aspect and subject agreement. And that's going to be for perspective and count. Okay, so the perspective of the subject and the count of the subject are what matters. So the mood is going to be indicative. Okay, indicative mood is just for general statements of fact, which is what she will give him the car. It's just a statement of fact. Tense, from the English, we know that this is future, right? Will give. And then aspect is going to be imperfect because it's not will have given. It's just will give, right? So this is the imperfect aspect. And then the subject, we just translated the subject of the scene. It was hun. And the perspective was third person and the count was singular. So we can just pull those characteristics from what we did before. So here we have all four features of our verb figured out. And so how do we find the proper spelling of Icelandic's version of to give? Well, let's start with finding the infinitive form of to give. And to do that, I'm going to go to Google Translate. I've got it set up for English to Icelandic. I'm going to write to give, and I've got ad gefa. I know that this first word ad, is equivalent to to, which is not really the verb. The main verb here is gefa. So I'm going to copy gefa, and I'm going to paste that into a website that has a list of Icelandic verb conjugations. And when I paste it in, it pulls up the infinitive form here, gefa. So I'm going to click on that. And here we get a nice spelling table of different forms of the verb gefa for different moods, indicative or subjunctive. And then we've got past tense, we've got present tense, future, and then we have perfect aspect and imperfect aspect. And then we've got different spellings for different subjects. So we're going to need these four features. We're going to need to know that we've got the indicative mood, and we're looking at the future imperfect, and that we have a third person singular subject. So let's go to the spelling table. So we've got indicative. That's all the spellings over here on the left side of the page. We've got future tense. So now we're looking down here in these two blocks. And then it was imperfect aspect. So over here, it's not listed explicitly, but this is future perfect. So this is future imperfect over here. Sometimes they call it future simple. And then our subject was third person singular, hun. And so we're looking for third person singular, which is, this is the masculine form of the third person singular. But here it is. This is the third person singular spelling, moon gefa. So I'm going to copy moon gefa. Oh, and I forgot to add the infinitive form, which was just gefa. Right. So we found gefa on Google Translate, and then I went to this website Verbix and pasted it in here and got a spelling table. And then using the spelling table, we found the proper spelling, moon gefa, of which should be pretty equivalent to English's will give. Okay. So I'm going to copy the working translation here, and I'm going to replace will give, the verb component, with our Icelandic translation. Okay. So I'm going to copy this down here. Let's move on to the next component, which is the indirect object, him. So we've got English's him. We need to translate that into some word in Icelandic, and we are now looking at the Icelandic. This is a personal pronoun, him. And we already, looked at the personal pronoun Icelandic before from our subject. So we know that we're going to have these 4 features. We're going to have perspective, gender, count, and case. Okay, so I'm going to write these 4 features of the Icelandic personal pronoun: perspective, gender, count, and case. So we need to find the particular features that we have for him. Okay, so perspective is going to be third person, him is third person, gender is going to be masculine, count is singular, and case, in this particular situation, we're using the personal pronoun as the indirect object, and indirect objects are generally the dative case in Icelandic. So I'm going to write dative here. Okay, so we've got our 4 features figured out. How do we find the proper spelling of him in Icelandic? Well, we're going to need the spelling table for the personal pronoun. So I'll go down to the Icelandic personal pronoun section. Here's the spelling table again. Let's find our 4 features: third person masculine singular dative. So in the spelling table, we want to go to third person masculine singular. That puts us in this row. Dative is this column, and the intersection of this row and this column is the spelling Honum, which is honum. So honum should be the best possible translation of him into Icelandic for our particular translation here. So I'm going to copy our working translation, and I will place him with honum. Okay, so we're slowly making our translation here. We've only got one component left. We've got the direct object, the car. So this component actually has 2 words in English, right? We've got the and car. The target thing is car. We're going to need to translate that into Icelandic, and that is going to be an Icelandic thing. Okay, and that's going to have some features. And then we've also got English's the, which is the definite article. And that's going to get translated into Icelandic as something. And so we're going to have to investigate the Icelandic definite article. And the Icelandic definite article may have some features as well. So the strategy is going to be the same. So we're going to investigate the Icelandic things. We're going to figure out what features they have. We're going to make a list of those features. And then we're going to use the spelling table of this particular thing in Icelandic to find the proper spelling of car in Icelandic, because there's going to be more than one spelling. So let's look at the Icelandic things. So in Icelandic, things have 4 characteristics. They've got gender, they've got count, they've got case, and they've got definiteness. So I'm going to write those features here: gender, count, case, and definiteness. So we're going to need something to kind of like a starting point here, because I don't know any of the words for car in Icelandic. So I'm going to go to Google Translate. I'll type in car, and I'm going to get this translation BILL in Icelandic. Again, that's just one of the possible spellings. There's multiple. So I'm going to take the spelling, this kind of base spelling that I got from Google Translate. I'm going to go over to Wiktionary, this other website. I'm going to type that in and search for that. And it pulls up an Icelandic page. It's listed as a noun. So that's good. And then we've got some information here. We've got the base spelling here that we used. We've got this M here, which indicates masculine gender. So I can go ahead and fill that in. Masculine gender. From the English translation, I know car is singular. And I know case, I can make a good guess about it because I know that car is being used in the direct object component here of the scene. And direct objects in Icelandic are generally going to be the accusative case. So I can fill in the likely case here. And then for definiteness, in English, we do have an explicit definite article. So I know that the definiteness of the target thing should be definite. Okay, so I've got 4 features for my Icelandic thing. I've filled in those 4 features. And so what do I need to do now to find the proper spelling of car in Icelandic in this particular situation? Well, I need the spelling table. And luckily, Wiktionary has a spelling table. They call it the declension table. But I'm going to open this up. And you can see that it has a table of different spellings. And the different spellings depend on several features. So here we've got count, singular, plural. We've got definiteness, indefinite or definite. And we've got the cases listed over here on the left side. So let's look at our features here. We've got singular, accusative, definite. So let's look at the spelling table. I've got singular, spellings over here. I've got definite. Singular, definite, accusative. So singular, definite. So now I'm looking at spellings in this column. And then I've got the accusative case, which is this row here. So this proper spelling of car in this particular translation should be feeling, right? And we found that based on these features. And we'll see in just a second that actually this suffix here, inn, you can consider that as the definite article. But we'll find that out as we look at the definite article just down here. I personally think about these as 2 different words. This is car and this is the. But you could also just think about this entire word as being car. And the particular spelling just indicates that it's a definite sense. But this is the proper spelling of car, a definite car in Icelandic. So let's go down and kind of investigate the Icelandic definite article. So here we have articles in Icelandic. Icelandic explicitly includes a special subcategory of descriptor called definite article. Yes, okay, I'm going to go down because I have another section on spelling rules. Okay, spelling rules. So the definite article changes spelling to match its target thing's gender, count, and case. So we have 3 features. We have gender, we have count, and we have case, and these are matching the target thing's gender, matching the target thing's count, and matching the target thing's case. So the nice thing is that we've already figured out all these features for the target thing. The target thing is car, okay, and we've already figured out the gender, which is masculine. We've already figured out the count, which is singular, and we've already figured out the case, which is accusative. Okay, so we have the 3 important features for the definite article in Icelandic. How would we find the proper spelling of the Icelandic definite article? Well, we have the features. We just need the spelling table. So I'm going to go down to the section on the definite article. And I'm going to look at the spelling table for the definite article in Icelandic, which is shown here. So here we have several features. We've got gender listed here. We've got count, singular, plural, and we've got case across the columns here. So let's look at our 3 features. We've got masculine gender, singular, and accusative. So here we've got masculine, so that's going to be this block of spellings. We've got singular, we're looking at this row of spellings. And we've got the accusative case, which is this column of spellings. So masculine, singular, accusative. The definite article should be the suffix inn or nn, but I'll just fill in inn here. And you can see that as we just figured out above, that the word for car, when it's used in the definite sense, already includes this dash inn suffix, right? It already has it built into the word. So we don't need, there's going to be no extra definite article word for this translation. the definite article is, you can think about it as being the suffix, which is how I think about it. So we've just figured out the translation of the final component. So I'm going to copy that down here. And we found that the phrase "the car," so the definite article plus the target thing, that's actually replaced by just a single word, bilen. So bil is car, and then the suffix "in" helps indicate the definiteness of the target thing. So here we have our finished translation. We started in English with the sentence, "She will give him the car," and we broke it down into components. We translated each component and each word in each component one by one. So we end up with the Icelandic translation, "Hun mun gefa honum bilen." And so I can go ahead and remove these extra symbols here, and I'll capitalize the first letter of the first word. So here we go. So translated, "She will give him the car," from English into "Hun mun gefa honum bilen" into Icelandic. And this should be a pretty decent translation. Again, the strategy is, you want to find the features of each, Icelandic word, and then you need the spelling table for that word, and then you can use the features to look up the proper spelling. And as long as you make sure you've got the components in the right order, you should be, end up with a pretty decent translation. So that's it. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.